4 minutes to make their presentation. And after this, we will look at the questions and the comments, and we will invite all the panelists to respond to them. So please write your questions and your comments on the chat. So go to the button and make them on the chat. And at the end, we will ask the panelists to respond to them. So Myrtle Webboy, it's over to you.
Tengah-tengah kan nih.
Myrtle,
Dengarkan nih, Kak ini.
Myrtle, we cannot hear you.
Kak dengar sudah.
Myrtle? Myrtle? Okay, maybe when we wait for Myrtle to fix the channel. Myrtle? Myrtle? Shall we ask the Carmen Brites while Myrtle is fixing her mic? Carmen Brites, please.
Hola, buenos días, buenas
Hello.
noches, buenas tardes a todos y a todos.
Morning, good evening, good afternoon to everyone. First of all, congratulate all the IDWF and to all the sisters and associates and every people who are working with us to be able to achieve our Convention 189. I am listening to many voices right now, different voices of our brothers and sisters. I will continue, okay? Sí, Carmen. Sí. So, the reality now is that this is a big, important moment for all domestic workers throughout the world during this crisis with the COVID-19 pandemic. We are in a very special moment where we can see that domestic workers are visible and are showing the needs we have, that each of our governments are recognized our sector as workers. On the other hand, sorry, actually I cannot speak because there is a very loud noise. I cannot concentrate on what I'm saying. Now it's working. So I will start again. Sorry, I apologize, but I could not hear what I was saying. Because there is a, I'm sorry, but I think that noise is coming back. Now we're good. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, there is a background noise and I cannot. Somebody is usually now. Can you hear me? Is it possible? Can you hear me? Yeah, sí, te escuchan bien. Ahora ¿me escuchas vos a mí, Carmen? Okay, now let's go on. I would like to congratulate to all domestic workers in this special day. It will be on June 16, our anniversary. And we are working as a team. I would like to congratulate the whole team of the IWF, the EXCO, the whole technical team, because all these videos, because all this sacrifice is really important. Obviously to Myrtle I really would like to thank you so much because you're a very important person for us, because you are leading our voice. You're the leader of the voice of domestic workers. So I really would like to congratulate you, because all domestic workers are very thankful for your work. On the other hand, I would like to tell you that from South America, we are fighting in this moment of crisis for all our needs and for all the needs our sisters have. For example, doing different mobilizations to provide the humanitarian with a very few resources, and for all our friends and associates who are participating in this mobilization. As unions are leading, the trade unions are leaders in defending domestic workers' rights throughout Latin America and the Caribbean. So this is a worldwide experience because it happens with all our affiliates. We are fighting for the rights of domestic workers. So the way the strategies have been organizing and strategizing at a regional level. So we care for those who care for us. So it has been a mutual support within our unions. So this social dialogue and political dialogue that we've been doing with our governments. So I do believe that today, at a world level, domestic workers, we made our voices heard. We made visible our organizations. We wanted to put the hierarchy of our work because we are workers as any other workers. All domestic workers is a sector that is then overlooked and must be recognized as workers. Not only in a small part of the world, but throughout the whole world. And this is our fight, and this is the fight we have to move forward and keep fighting for the ratification of our convention. And be ratified in the countries that are still not signatories, but has to be implemented and applied in the whole countries that have been ratified, that already ratified this convention. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
We need the interpreter Mariela to interpret in English. Mariela, please.
Okay.
Sorry, I was doing the translation at the same time as Carmen, but I think it got missing. So I will.
Argentina.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Hi.
मारियाला को बोला जा रहा है वो
didn't
वापस
hear
से
what I was
अंग्रेजी में सब कुछ
translating
बोले
before.
ताकि हम आपको ये सब कुछ वापस से सुना सके जो कामेन ने बोला था.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello? You can't hear me? Oh dear.
យើងនៅតែអត់ឮគាត់ដដែលហើយជាមានបញ្ហាបច្ចេកទេសទៀតអី
Siapa ngaji? Imam ngaji.
អ្នកណាចូលបានហើយថាស្ដាប់អត់ឮសម្ភារជួយប្រាប់គាត់ផងមិញឃើញគាត់ណាស់ទេ
Yes.
Yes, okay, so I will recap what Carmen said.
Okay.
First,
पहले तो इन्होंने जो कामेन थी उन्होंने थैंक यू बोला मर्टेल को उनका प्रेसिडेंट होने के लिए क्योंकि मर्टेल हमेशा से ही घरेलू कामगारों के हक और अधिकारों के लिए अंतर्राष्ट्रीय स्तर पे लड़ रही है
នេះគឺមានផលប៉ះពាល់នៅជុំវិញពិភពលោកហើយសហជីពហើយនឹង សហជីព
ये कह रही है कि
ទាំង
अभी
ឡាយ
जो
ហើយ
पूरा
នឹង
का
បណ្
पूरा
ដាញកម្មករកម្មងារជួយសហការនេះ
हमारा
គឺកំពុង
मूवमेंट
តែ
है,
ខិតខំ
हमारा
ជួយ
जो
យ៉ាង
पूरा
ណាស់
आंदोलन है,
ដើម្បីឲ្យ
वो
មាន
सिर्फ
សម្
और
លេង
सिर्फ
នៃទូទាំង
घरेलू
ប្រពៃ
कामगारों की
ទាំងនៅ
आवाज
ក្នុង
पे फोकस
អា
किया
មេរិក
जा
ខាងត្បូ
रहा
ង
है
នៅអា
और
ហ្វ្រិកខាងត្បូ
जो
ង
संगठन
ហើយ
है
នៅក្នុងតំបន់ផ្សេងៗទៀត
perdagangan
អញ្ចឹងគាត់
dan
ច
dia
ង់
ingin
គូបញ្ជាក់ថាសម្រាប់ប្រទេសទាំងអស់
menekankan
ដែល
yang
បាន
sudah menandatangani
ទៅ
konvensi
ដល់សច្ចាប័ន
189
ហើយ
harus
ហ្នឹង
mendaftar
C189
konvensi
ហើយត្រូវតែ
dan
ធ្វើយ៉ាងម៉េច
dia
ឲ្យរដ្ឋាភិបាល
menelponi
យក
negara-negara
មកអនុវត្ត
yang
ឲ្យបាន
अपना लिया है, अब
belum
उसके लिए
meratifikasi
कानून बनाए और
konvensi
जिन्होंने
ហើយ
अभी
សម្រាប់
जो है
ប្រទេស
एक
ដែល
प्रवासी
មិន
को
ទាន់
नहीं अपनाया है,
បាន
अब समय
ធ្វើ
आ
ការ
गया
ប្រ
है
សច្ចា
उन
ប័នទេ
सारी
គឺត្រូវធ្វើយ៉ាងណា
देशों को कन्वेंशन
ត្រូវធ្វើយ៉ាង
189
ណា
को अडॉप्ट कर
ឲ្យ
लेना
រដ្ឋាភិបាល
चाहिए
នៅប្រទេសរបស់ខ្លួន
और
ហ្នឹងផ្ដល់សច្ចាប័នឲ្យបា
menjaga
ន
mereka
អញ្ចឹង
yang merawat
ជា
kita
ទៅគាត់គិតថាយើងគួរតែមានចលនា
ये
របស់កម្មករ
सारे
កម្មងារទាំងផ្ទះ
कामें ने
នៅ
हर
ជុំវិញ
संगठन को
ពិភពលោក
धन्यवाद बोला कि हम सब लोगों ने एक साथ जुड़ करके IDWF की पूरी ताकत को और
អ
बढ़ाया
រ
है
គុណ
और इस पूरे मूवमेंट को इस
និយា
पूरे
យសារដ៏
पूरी चीज को आगे लेकर जा रहे
ខ្លាំងក្លាមួយក៏មានអនុភាពមួយដែលវារំលឹកខ្ញុំអំពីការផ្ដល់សច្ចាប័នហើយនឹងការអនុម័ត C189 ឥឡូវយើងស្ដាប់ Maria Clark Walker
Can folks hear me?
Yes.
First of all, let me just say thank you and happy International Domestic Workers Day. It is so nice. There we go. Can everyone hear me now?
Okay. Yes.
Good. Happy International Workers Day to everyone. And I want to, this is the first opportunity that I'm getting to say thank you to all of you for all the great work that you all did on Convention 190 as well. Without you, I don't think we would be here today. So I will also want to thank Elizabeth and Myrtle for inviting me and for the work that you all do every single day to push the plight of domestic workers to the forefront so that everybody in the world can see. This is a very different time for all of us. We have a global pandemic, we have racism that is happening on blast, and we have people who you wouldn't expect to be celebrating or demonstrating on behalf of Black lives out there doing it. And it's very important to domestic workers as well, the majority of whom are racialized, and they can tell us about violence and harassment, including racism and discrimination that they experience on a daily basis. And by all accounts, we know that this has increased with COVID-19. So challenges faced by domestic workers, I don't need to tell you, during this time are many. And it's also dependent on many things. Some are away from their families with nowhere to go. Some are in different countries with no family, no friends. Some are still working for no pay because the place of work is also where they live. Some are trapped. Some are trapped as well in homes with their harasser and their abuser. What we do know is that domestic workers are on the front line of this pandemic. They're caring for our children, our elderly, our weak, our disabled family members and friends, many putting themselves in harm's way for the benefit of others. In many of the larger so-called developed countries, it is still difficult for some frontline workers to obtain personal protective equipment. So imagine the situation for those in countries where there is no access to PPEs, there is no regular hand washing, and social distancing is not a reality for folks. In many countries, domestic workers are also left out of the social protection schemes. And during the pandemic, they're also not eligible for any of the assistance programs that have been set up during this time. So we're going through a lot of stuff. And in some cases, they've also been terminated, leaving them unable to pay rent, homeless in some countries, stranded in foreign countries. For those who need medication, they have no way to pay for them. And therefore that added stress potentially exacerbates and elevates minor health concerns. So that is also a concern during this time. For those living away from the families also suffer because there are no remittances to be received. In some countries, there was much help for workers, but in other countries, the majority, I would say, not so much. All of this is coupled with social isolation, and many feeling that they don't have the supports of the system, their employer, etc. And we know that the pandemic is not gender neutral. Most of the countries and most of the workers who've been deemed essential in these countries are women. And while it has become the norm to refer to them as our COVID heroes, the reality is that these workers have been underpaid and undervalued for quite some time. With COVID, in the absence of universal childcare, that double burden, that we talk about that double burden of women, they have to be out to work and then come home and do the unpaid work. Well, that double burden has turned into a triple and quadruple burden. Children are home from school because of the lockdown, and so parents have become teachers. They've also become their children's playmates. So you have to do all of that on top of work, and it's extremely bad. I think that COVID has also exposed the problems that we've been talking about as workers for decades, and we definitely can't go back to the way things were. We believe that domestic workers and workers in general deserve better. Better pay, better benefits, better protections, better pensions, better treatment. And now is the time to make that change. The world is watching and listening. We're all stuck in front of screens, whether those screens are our phones or computer screens. A year out from negotiating an amazing convention at the ILO, it is clear that lessons still need to be learned. We're hearing about disturbing things currently happening on the front line to domestic workers and to other workers that are on the front line. The increased incidence of violence and harassment, including domestic violence, transportation workers who've been spit on, nurses who've been attacked on their commute to work, healthcare and shelter workers who are forced to live in their cars because their family or their landlord don't want them to be in the home if they're going to be exposed to COVID. So there are a lot of things that are currently happening. We need a change going forward. What must become the new normal is some of the things that they have been able to put into place very quickly in some countries. Guaranteed income, paid sick leave, personal protective equipment have been flowing in some countries. This needs to become the new norm. We need to make sure that there's an intersectional gendered lens and an analysis that's put on post-COVID. It needs to be front and center post-COVID. And workers need to be at that table. We can't be doing this, governments and employers can't be doing this on their own. Workers, including domestic workers, need to be at that table because their reality is different. The positive changes that were made during the pandemic need to become that new normal. When we talk about Solidarity Forever, the song that was just played in the video, you hear, we're reminded that without us, not a single wheel will turn. Well, we have to take that same stance for all work. Without us, there's no childcare. Without us, there's no healthcare. There's no education. There's no one to take care of the elderly, no one to take care of the sick, no domestic workers. And we must be prepared to remind the world of this. Without us, the world does not work. Every worker needs to have benefits. Sorry,
sorry, please. Yeah.
So in order to move forward, there's some things that have to happen. So we must demand universal social protections and investments for all. Investment in the care economy is extremely important. We have to demand health and safety protections. We must demand fair treatment with employers and from employers, access to quality healthcare systems and healthcare services, which includes mental health. Extremely, extremely important. Ensure that paid sick leave is given to all workers, and ensure that all essential services for victims of domestic violence will remain available during the lockdown and after. And last but definitely not least, we must demand that all countries ratify Convention 189 and Convention 190. With that said, I also want to give huge compliments to all of you at IDWF. I absolutely love the campaign, Care for Those Who Care for You. It's a campaign that I think should be a motto for everyone. And for those listening on this webinar, if you have not checked out that campaign, please do, and please, all of you, stay safe. The world cannot function without all of us working together. And thank you, and once again, happy Domestic Workers' Day.
Thank you. Thank you, Maria Clark, for your solidarity, for reminding us what are there in the new normal that we should fight for, we should move forward towards. So now let us hear from our president, Myrtle Weboy. And I hope she is ready. Myrtle, over to you.
Banyak yang mati ya.
Myrtle, we cannot hear you.
الميتنج probably إذا بدها أن لن تدفع معنا أو لازم نفل من الضمة أو هيك شيء.
Myrtle, we cannot hear you.
Daripada Singapore.
Novi. Is Novi here? Our last speakers, Novi? Novi. Yeah, Novi is trying to join us, but because of the bad weather in the Philippines, she may have challenges to do it. Okay. Okay, so Novi is here. So let us hear from Novi first.
Novi,
over to you.
Oh, as you can see in the video, how we organize our membership base in the community.
Okay, Novi, over to you.
The local leaders would be able to respond to the needs of our members. Of course, we have challenges and difficulties we are facing right now. The social distancing, but we have a human touch showing that we value them. They are important to us, like calling them via phone, Facebook, Messenger. We monitor them also how they are doing their situation and how we able to help them. The leaders in the community trains a lot to value the sisterhood, to respond and help each other in times of need right away. Asian people are caring and hospitable with each other, but the most important is using the social media to be able to communicate with each other every time they are facing some problems. We can help them anytime with small money we contribute. The important goals we want is to stop racism, value as a worker and domestic work is work. And to conclude all of that, keep human touch with domestic workers, keep closer and stronger in organizing.
Okay, thank you, Noe.
That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for trying to join. I know that it's very challenging now because Philippines was just hit by a typhoon yesterday. So I really appreciate that you have managed to speak to us. And I want to know if Myrtle can speak now. Oh, Myrtle not on mic. Okay. So thank you all the panelists. We still have a few minutes left. And may I invite those who are not speaking to mute your phone, to mute yourself so that it will be quieter. We have heard from the speakers, from all the panelists, the importance to ratify and implement the Convention 189 and the Convention 190. The pandemic has made us realize there are so many injustice, so many denial of rights to us, to workers, especially domestic workers. We face challenges not just as workers, but also as women, as mothers, as wives. And it also makes us more vulnerable because we are from a weakened position, without social protections, without health care, and without minimum wage, unemployment benefits. And this is time that we have to once again remind the government we deserve this. We deserve better treatment. We deserve protections. So maybe I'd like to hear the panelists how we domestic workers and all what we must do to achieve the ratification of these conventions. And Noe, in her short presentation, has also given us some hints. During this crisis, her union has been trying to connect to members, and that how she feels in these difficult times, they actually feel much closer together. And this is part of organizing and maybe a clue to what we should be doing during this time and to prepare our union to grow stronger after the crisis. So may I ask Carmen, Maria Clark, and Noe to comment on this, on what our movement should do. Who want to speak? Carmen? Over to you.
Gracias, Elizabeth. Bueno, yo creo que nuestro movimiento, no solamente por la adopción y la ratificación del convenio 189, lo que debemos hacer es llegar a un diálogo social con el Estado, porque el Estado es el que tiene que ratificar, el Estado es el que tiene que aplicar nuestro convenio y nosotros tenemos que defenderlos. Por lo cual, lo que debemos hacer son acciones con nuestros estados para poder llegar a la ratificación y después luego a la
រដ្ឋាភិបាលនីមួយៗនឹងធ្វើការប្រសិទ្ធបាននិយាយអំពីសារៈសំខាន់នៃការងាររបស់យើងគឺថារដ្ឋាភិបាលគឺជាអ្នកដែលត្រូវប្រសិទ្ធបានហើយយើងត្រូវតែធ្វើការជំរុញឲ្យរដ្ឋាភិបាលនៅក្នុងការផ្ដល់សេចក្ដីបានហើយអនុវត្តនៅអនុសញ្ញាផងដែរដូច្នេះយើងត្រូវតែធ្វើតាមយុទ្ធនាការរបស់យើងធ្វើជាប់ចំណិចមិនដាច់ទេរហូតដល់យើងបានជោគជ័យ
Maria, over to you. Maria.
I was unable to hear Carmen Mariella's translation. I don't know if anybody else wasn't able to hear it because I didn't want to repeat. But if I could ask Mariella just to do a synopsis of what Carmen said, that would help.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
I will write down in the. Is it possible for me to write down in the chat so everybody can say can see what I say, what Carmen said. Sorry.
So I think that both Elizabeth and Novi touched on things that need to happen. It's really important for folks in particular communities and countries to stay in contact with each other. We know that when we are dealing with situations like this pandemic and also the racial unrest globally, even though it's happening in the impetus was in the United States, there are incidents all over the world. So it's important to stay in contact with each other so that you stay safe. But it's also important to ensure that others in the labor movement know what is important for domestic workers and fight for them as well. We don't do any of this on our own. It's important to do it in solidarity, working together. This is the time to be talking to our employers and people who are seeing what's happening and have some sympathy and some empathy and get them to push governments, get them to push states, etc., to make the changes that are necessary to keep all of us safe. Again, the pandemic put everything on blast. It showed that people can't survive without particular workers, domestic workers being one. And so make sure that if they really understand, they're also going to join that push to make sure that all of the necessary policies, procedures that domestic workers need to stay safe and healthy and paid well and productive are put in place.
Thank you, Maria Clark, for reminding us solidarity is the key word.
One other thing, Elizabeth, if I can, nobody knows what this new normal is going to look like. We know what we want it to look like, right? But nobody knows what it's going to look like. We don't know whether they're going to be vaccines. We don't know what social distancing would look like. We don't know what travel. So these all impacts on domestic workers as well. And if we don't know what those are going to look like, how do we know how we do our job, right? How do you social distance when you have to feed someone, when you have to change someone, right? When you have to look after an elderly person or someone who's disabled. Those people need that touch. They need to be able to feel that human touch. And if you're not able to do this in the new normal, how do you do your work? So those are all things that we need to talk about. We need to strategize about as a movement.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maria Clark. And Myrtle is here. I'm glad that you are back. Myrtle, please share with us your thoughts on rising from the crisis stronger. Myrtle, over to you. Myrtle? Myrtle, can you hear me? Myrtle? Myrtle, we cannot hear you. Myrtle? Myrtle? Yeah. Okay, is Novi still here? Novi? Myrtle? Okay. Okay, I'm okay. Yeah, Noe is here. Noe, you want to give us some words about how or what we must do to make our movement stronger?
Okay. Like the pandemic we're experiencing right now. The convention, if we awareness to based violence of domestic workers we're facing right now, and of course also the Asian affiliate also should work hard also to push and lobby to the government to be able to recognize domestic work is work. And of course, we are the International Domestic Workers Federation also could help each other to be able to help each affiliates to ratify the said convention, the C189 and C190. Thank you.
Thank you, Noe. I don't see Myrtle online. Yeah, I'm so sorry because of technical problem.
Hindi ko maintindihan kasi.
And because of the time, we have to end the panel session here. Myrtle, if you can come back, please let me know.
How and what to make our movement.
And give you the floor. And now let us move on the program to the next. The next, we will watch the regional presentations from the rest of the regions, from the Caribbean, from Europe, and also from Latin America and the MENA region. And we will also hear from our other EXCO members and also our allies to give us the solidarity message. So now let us watch the presentation from the Caribbean regions.
The COVID pandemic has made life extremely difficult for domestic workers. Already, domestic workers were insecure and vulnerable. So now this economic crisis combined with this COVID, is really a pressure on domestic workers. Some were sent home without pay, without even notice from March. And to date, they're still at home. Some cannot go to work because they have to stay home with their children because school is closed. What is happening to living domestic workers? That they are working extremely long hours. They can't leave their employers home because if they do, the employer will say to them, don't come back because you're gonna go on the road and we don't know what you will come back with. So they are forced to work long hours. So it's forced labor.
Dear domestic workers worldwide, 16th of June 2011 remains an unforgettable day thanks to ILO and the Convention 189, because it brought domestic workers worldwide out of slavery. We came together with similar problems of exploitation, of discrimination, but we also came together with the same hope of respect, recognition, and freedom. We were, and since then, we are together, to struggle and to search together, to support each other worldwide, and more than ever before, now with the corona crisis, to care for one another. The reports that I get from National Domestic Workers Movement in India are really admirable, of the care for the lonely, the hungry, the aged, and the handicapped domestic workers who have no chance to survive and to overcome this crisis without this support of one another. And the initiatives that domestic workers all over, in Latin America, in Africa, in Asia, take are to care for one another, are spontaneous and creative. And they are supported by workers and friends all over the world, from all over, other workers and also supporters. And this international solidarity gives hope and new life to our world today. You, domestic workers, inspire and encourage each one and all of us. Let us then celebrate this year on the 14th, the Sunday, together to thank one another, to thank our leaders, our friends and supporters, to thank the International Domestic Workers Federation and the ILO, and move to a hopeful 16th of June 2020 and a new future. A happy 16th of June this year.
The situation of domestic workers and home care workers over the past 3 months has been devastating. In Belgium and around the world, domestic workers and home care workers have been on the front line, dealing with people in desperate need by at the same time taking the risk of being infected. Confusing information and lack of prevention and protection materials have exacerbated the situation. Words are not sufficient to express our gratitude to the workers who every day had to find ways to continue to do their jobs, to offer their services, help and care to families, children, the elderly, and the sick. In addition, domestic workers are still facing severe financial difficulties. The Belgian government, for example, provided an emergency subsidy to compensate for the loss of wages for those who could not work due to the health crisis. 70% of the salary was granted. However, most domestic workers cannot meet their primary needs with a subsidy covering only 70% of the salary, which is already underpaid. Their choice was to continue to work and risking their lives, or poverty. There is no way that domestic workers will financially survive a second wave of the virus. They will lose their jobs, end up on the streets, and will not be able to feed their children. This is why we strongly request that either employers continue to pay the salaries of domestic workers, or that governments take measures to subsidize the complete loss of wages in order to save those who allow us to sustain our economy, our system. To all domestic workers, you are true heroes. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We need you. We love you. We need to stick together, because it is together that today, more than ever, we have to make ourselves heard and demand our rights as workers. ILO Convention 189 needs to be recognized and implemented. Viva domestic workers. Viva IDWF.
We left our own country and took a chance to work in foreign land. We choose to take a risk than die in hunger in our own country. We sacrifice, we struggle, we work hard because we want a better future for our family. We met in the voice of domestic workers. We came from different countries. At first, we were strangers, but we took the same journey and eventually became a family. We listened to each other's story. Then our burden became lighter, and we wished for each other's success. We set aside our worries. Do not despair. Just like the inevitable COVID-19 pandemic. Despite our anxiety and depression, we smile as in we are okay, even we are not. For our family, not to worry. Being in the voice of domestic workers, we can depend each other. Together, we search for ways to overcome our isolation and vulnerability. We demand the same rights as other workers have. Migrant domestic workers, as carers, the children, the elderly, and household managers are key workers too. Without us, who can go to work? We value our work with love and dedication, and we want the same respect and recognition. No to exploitation, yes to workers' rights. We are workers. I made this poem for the voice of domestic workers. It says, why domestic work is a decent work, and why domestic workers are workers. I'm Wendy, originally came from Philippines.
In Belgium, we are working for many years to have a decent salary. In the sector of domestic workers, the salary evolution, it's been very poor. Our sector is overlooked completely. The sanitary crisis has confirmed that we are not achieving the minimum. The economic problem, it's a catastrophe in the sector. You are workers as any other workers. You deserve respect. And this respect starts with a decent wage. Hola, hello, my name is Carmen Brites. I am representing from the UPAC from Argentina. In this special day, I would like to give a big congratulations to all the sisters who have been working and fighting for the Convention 189 and the implementation, and also to tell you that from the IWF, we are gathering a fund for solidarity for all our workers and sisters to sustain and bring support for all these workers because we need this support. We are gathering funds to provide for domestic workers. We care for those who care for us. The domestic workers are united. We are sending. This is translated in English. I am Loreta Benita from the UPAC from Argentina. I am congratulate you for all domestic workers. We need to move forward and continue ahead.
Proud decent workforce from domestic workers in Brazil and around the world.
Dear sisters from Peru, we are sending our biggest congratulations from Peru because we need to renovate our compromise for the fighting of Convention 189. We have to go ahead and long live for domestic workers. Hello, my name is Francia Blanco. I am the secretary from Nicaragua. During this pandemic, all domestic workers, we must be united. We have to have more solidarity between us. Long live Convention 189 from Latin America to the world. This is the network from domestic workers from Guerrero, Mexico. We have been fired and without salary. Convention 189 is defending our rights as workers. From El Salvador, I am Aida Rosales, secretary from CIMUT. I am saluting all the sisters. We have continue fighting to fight for our rights and for our civilizations. Together, we are stronger united. Hello, I am Marilu from Sinacao, Mexico. We are sending our big hello to all workers, domestic workers We have to sign Domestic Workers Unite from Panama. My name is Yadira Samaniego, secretary from Singreco. We are sending our biggest salutation, congratulations. In these moments from pandemic, it is necessary to demand our governments the ratification and the application of C-189. We continue on the fight. Hello, my name is Dolores Robero from Sinatomca in Nicaragua. We are sending our congratulations and we are saying we are defending our rights through C-189. Hello, my name is Jenny Hurtado from Colombia. I would like to congratulate the IDWF for the defense of domestic workers. Hello, my name is Carmen Almeida from Peru. I send my sincere congratulations to the IWF in the day of International Domestic Workers Day, and we are demanding the application of Convention 189. My name is Lebrada Maciel from Paraguay. I send you my congratulations and many, many blessings to all of you. My name is Lilian Marrero from the UNFETRA from Dominican Republic. From the Dominican Republic, I will send you our congratulations to all domestic workers in their day. Thank you so much to all domestic workers from worldwide. Despite all the adversities, we have been able to achieve what we would never imagine it would be possible. Yes, we can. Yes.
To equal protection. Ratify, implement Convention 189. On a tous les mêmes droits. Donnez nos droits.
Kafala is the main reason for abuse. Stop labeling every murder as suicide.
Unity is strength. United we are stand.
Migrant domestic workers' lives matters. One for all and all for one.
Abolish kafala. Abolish kafala. Abolish kafala.
On behalf of the Bayanihang Domestic Workers Qatar, our heartfelt gratitude to the International Domestic Workers Federation for continuously advocating for workers' rights globally and for the support to the Filipino migrant domestic workers here in Qatar. Thank you for inspiring us to uplift our life as a workers. We offer this song One Moment in Time to all migrant domestic workers all over the world.
Of my heart, put every care to taste the sweet. I praise the pain. I rise and fall, yet through it all, this much remains.
I want one moment in time when I'm more than I thought I could be. When all of my dreams are hard
And the answers are rolled up to me. Give me one moment in time when I'm racing with destiny.
Together, we are stronger. As a domestic worker, it is our responsibility to secure ourselves and be aware of what's going on around, especially the situation we are having. The presence of coronavirus add fear to our situation. Together, we are stronger.
I enjoy my day off just like the normal days. I just have it at home or in the house.
I thank Sandigan Kuwait for monitoring us and our condition, for always checking our welfare, our security, and our safety. Together, we are stronger.
Together, we are stronger.
To the members of the International Domestic Workers Federation, I bring greetings, love, and care from the National Domestic Workers Alliance in the U.S. In the U.S., we are in the middle of the fight of our lives to defend Black lives. Countless Black lives have been lost at the hands of the police and racist vigilantes, and we have a person in the White House who has been enabling and encouraging it. In the context of the COVID crisis, Black people have lost disproportionately more lives, more jobs, and Black communities have been ravaged by this crisis. It has unleashed a movement moment in our country and around the world. People are protesting and demanding justice and accountability and systems change in every corner of our country. Domestic workers have been on the front lines of this global pandemic and the crisis in the US. We have been the first to lose our jobs and income. We've been left behind of federal relief efforts. We still do not have access to testing and care. And we are continuing to work providing essential services to some of the most vulnerable people to the coronavirus. So we continue to organize for Black lives, for essential workers who are disproportionately women of color, for a massive investment in the care economy and good care jobs. We know you are with us, and please know that we are with you as we continue our organizing for dignity, for respect, and for our very lives in this moment. We, as a domestic workers movement, are a movement that has always lived with and through crisis. This crisis has revealed to the general public so much of the pain and injustice that has always shaped our lives. Our IDWF organizing and our movement has never been more important, and may it offer the hope and the opening that we need to change the world. We are with you always.
Hello and greetings to you all. Thank you for giving me a few minutes of your time today to be able to bring warm wishes and solidarity to you as you gather and plan your work as you go forward. Thank you also for having me at your international gathering earlier this year in the USA, where I had the immense privilege of talking to you, but more importantly, of listening to and learning from you. As UN Women's lead on addressing sexual harassment, I'm particularly keen that we uncover more fully and address more adequately the work that needs to be done to ensure that domestic workers are free from sexual harassment and abuse. The isolation that many of you face in working in people's homes, the ways in which that work is not easily seen by others, makes you easy targets and makes it hard to seek justice and get redress, even recognition for what you're dealing with. Sometimes even laws don't recognize that you exist. And 17% or more of you are migrant domestic workers. And it's especially challenging in those circumstances to find your way through the systems, to get support, to get advice, to escape if needed, to get justice. We know that domestic workers can have passports taken away, can have phones confiscated, and be very isolated in those circumstances. These are really challenging. These are also challenging times during the COVID pandemic, when many of you are on the front lines of providing support, but also at risk of picking up the virus and dealing with its consequences. So as we progress through the pandemic, as we continue to work for and advocate for your rights being realized, being recognized in full, as we seek greater take up of the Convention 189 from the ILO, which has very poor ratification still, I send you solidarity. I want you to know that we continue to advocate for and support your work. Most of all, let me recognize the work of the Federation and its affiliates, and all of you. It's your organizing that will make the difference. I wish you well. Take care. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Shirley Price. I'm the president of the Jamaica Household Workers Union, an executive member of the International Domestic Workers Federation, representing the Caribbean. And this June 16, International Domestic Workers Day, I am saying to all domestic workers, to all our affiliates, when life gives you 100 reasons for you to break down and cry, please show life that you have 1,000,000 more reasons to smile, 1,000,000 more reasons to laugh, and 1,000,000 more reasons to love. Affiliates, stay safe, and more than all, stay strong. The International Domestic Workers Federation has been providing funds for all affiliates to buy food items like we have here. You're providing funds to pay bills. You're providing funds to pay salary. You're providing funds to buy protective gears. And today I'm pleading to each of you out there, each and every one out there, for your help to support the International Domestic Workers Solidarity Fund. We are in this crisis together. Please care for those who care for you. Donate to our fund today. Thank you.
Happy International